Your time with the minister.
Yes, please.
All right, please proceed.
Well, thank you, Minister. Thank you to your staff for being here to defend the estimates. I appreciate the process. I want to have a look at our the business plan. And I'm looking at page 97 of the business plan. You've been actually asked a couple of questions about this, but I'm also going to look back at last year's business plan. Now, I appreciate you probably don't have it with you, or you might, and I also appreciate that at the time you weren't the minister. But there is something that is really puzzling to me, and that is last year we had 3 performance measures under key strategy number 2, and this year we've only got 1. And the one that has survived the cut process is a good one, and I'm glad it's there. And that performance measure is that energy consumption intensity in megajoules per gross square meter in government-owned and operated facilities, and it shows that tracking gradually downward, and that's, of course, laudable. I'm concerned that 2B and 2C from last year have disappeared, and both of these, when I read them, I think are eminently reasonable performance measures to track. One is the percentage difference between the average operating cost per rentable square meter of government-owned and operated office space and privately operated leased space, which I think you alluded to before, but is not specifically in the business plan being tracked. And then 2C, and I think this one's very relevant, that net greenhouse gas emissions intensity in metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalents per square meter of government-owned and operated facilities. And if we look below those, it gives the linking of performance measures to outcomes for both 2B and 2C, and gives, again, very reasonable reasons why those 2 things should be tracked. So, Minister, can I ask you, why are these things no longer appearing in your business plan? Are they still being tracked and just don't appear in the business plan, in which case they could be inserted easily next year? Or is it just something we're not keeping track of anymore?
Sorry. Yeah, we do continue to track that.
Okay.
We're just not tracking it in the business plan. But certainly, if you would like to see it in the business plan and you consider it helpful, I think it's a suggestion we could take into account and perhaps put it back in next year.
Personally, I tend to be a person that the more things that you can track and measure progress on, I think the more credible your planning becomes, and also the more credible the fact that your effort is actually resulting in an achievement of the goals. So I think that's, I would certainly ask or recommend that it be put back into the business plan. I think both of those measurements are entirely reasonable and things that we should be looking at. So if we now go back to page 96, and again, I'm looking at last year's business plan, I'm looking at this year's business plan. Now, Minister, you've mentioned a couple of times that your ministry, in addition to being in charge of construction of new facilities or new infrastructure, that you're also responsible for the maintenance of existing infrastructure. Right. And that's extremely important, and I'm really glad to hear that. And you know, I will also say that in tough fiscal times, your government has managed to continue to allocate precious resources to maintenance of our existing infrastructure base. Mm-hmm. I think that is very laudable, and I mean, once upon a time when we were in the same party, I will tell you that I think one of the failings of that party at certain times in our past was that we didn't do enough of that. And so I'm glad your government's doing that. But having said that, I look at the chart on page 96, and these are the performance measures 1A through 1D, and this is, you explained before how the FCI is used to determine these numbers. And I look at it and I say, well, if we're adding in this additional investment and doing a better job of maintaining our buildings rather, mm-hmm. why aren't we getting better? I look at health facilities, the physical condition, that number drops to 79%. I look at school facilities, that's basically a flat line. I look at post-secondary facilities, and I'll point out that under target 2019-2020, you've got an arithmetical error that adds up to 107%, so that can't be right. But the physical condition, you know, the percentage in category 1 goes from 72 down to eventually 67%, and then in government-owned and operating facilities, it's, again, basically a flat line, 74, 75%. Now, I get it that maintenance of buildings is a bit of a treadmill, that mm-hmm. you spend the money, but you don't necessarily see a whole lot of forward progress. Right. But I guess I'm wondering why those targets aren't more ambitious, because personally, I don't see a lot of progress being made there.
Well, Certainly when it comes to the physical conditions of our like take health facilities, for example. There's a 1% increase in 2019-20. I'm assuming you're looking at those same numbers I am.
Yep.
So we have an expectation that with the completion of new health facilities, those would be coming on board in Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, Grand Prairie, Fort McMurray. Those actually have a positive impact on the overall physical condition rating.
Sure.
However, then we can assume that the measure will decline in 2021 as maintenance requirements ramp up as buildings get older. So one of the things that becomes part of the balancing act is new buildings come online, existing buildings get older, and that affects what you're looking at in terms of those numbers. So I don't know that it's always a case of not getting better at maintenance, but the ebb and flow of new buildings coming on and other buildings getting older, and of course these buildings are well used and well populated, and in the case of schools, as you can well imagine, when you got lots of kids in a school, you've got a lot of maintenance to do.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out an analogy, and the only one I can come up with is the productivity of a dairy herd once cows get over 20 years of age decreases, and as you bring in new heifers, their productivity increases, and so your overall BCA score for a dairy herd will increase. And I'm not sure if that's even tangentially related to facility condition index.
I think you lost me at dairy herd.
Okay, well, I will say that we have a new dairy barn at Lakeline College, and speaking of Lakeline College, Minister, that was on my list of infrastructure projects I submitted to you, and the funding was announced by your colleague, the Minister of Advanced Education, on Friday. I want to thank you, and I already thanked him for that. That's a much-needed project, and we appreciate it. I want to ask a question again. Maybe this seems a little esoteric, but under the risks to achieving outcomes, this one's interesting. The second paragraph, interesting also, I'll point out that the risks to achieving outcomes have radically changed from last year, and that's fine. They need to be updated. But the second risk, as the demographics of Alberta shift, the ministry will need to enable adaptive provincial infrastructure to support multiple purposes over the facility's lifespan. Infrastructure will need to have the capacity to anticipate future needs and the agility to adjust how projects are managed. Great goal. How do you get there? I know you talked a little bit when you're answering Mr. Van Dyken's question that you have the asset management strategy, but throw out an example. A lot of schools have been built and are being built right in the neighborhood of Edmonton I grew up in. The junior high school that always was our hated rival in junior high school sport is now shuttered. There's just not enough students that go to it, so they've shut the place down. And the question I get asked from people is, could this building not be repurposed for something else that we need? So are we looking at the design of buildings now such that if it's built as a school today, that perhaps in 30 years or 40 years it could be re-profiled or changed into some other type of public facility? And
I would argue in even less time than 30 or 40 years. Because, as generations change, the needs of the building change. And those are conversations I have on an ongoing basis when we talk about design, build, and what we'd like to see. When we talk about how we look at the building of the future has to be nimble. It has to be a lot more nimble than it is right now. And so one of the things, like take the Calgary Cancer Center, for example, one of the among the many great things at the Calgary Cancer Center is it is going to be very nimble in terms of its design and its environmental impact. So we're looking at things like high R value for above grade roof assemblies, high efficiency LED lighting that's going to save energy. The heating and cooling systems are going to be designed specifically to have a massive impact on the reduction of...
And sorry, Minister, I don't mean to interrupt. I have absolutely no doubt that the Calgary Cancer Center will be a state-of-the-art facility. And I also think it's very very likely it'll be a cancer center for pretty much the entirety of its lifespan. I guess I'm looking at more at buildings that are replicated in many instances across the province, like we're building 2,000 new continuing care beds, for an example,
Right.
to accommodate what will be the bulge generation, folks like myself and the baby boomers as we get older and more decrepit. So as that happens, at some point that bulge generation will contract back down again, and we may, it's hard to say, we may find ourselves in a situation where we have an overcapacity in those beds. Are those facilities that are currently on the drawing board being designed so that at some point they could be changed into something else?
Well, as a matter of fact, it's a conversation we have ongoing.
Okay.
And a conversation, when you look at healthcare facilities, obviously AHS has a great deal of control over what those look like. But certainly it's something in infrastructure specifically. I go out specifically to look at where we find that nimble build. So for instance, I don't know if you're familiar with DIRT, based in Calgary, and they have the ability to go out like a lot of these great innovative groups and really snap together modularly the kind of room that could at one point in its lifespan be a patient's room. At another point, you can remove walls and turn it into a lab facility. Those are the kinds of things that we're interested in talking about. And so I've been doing a lot of site visits with groups like this who do this kind of work. DIRT does that work all over the world.
And we have a new credit union building in Lloydminster that has dirt walls.
Yeah.
So I know what you're talking about, and that flexibility, I mean, to a certain extent, even the flexibility that we see within this building is laudable. So it's on your radar. That's great. I certainly hope that it stays there, because I think it's the kind of thing that sometimes when there's a focus on least cost and building to a certain specification, that can be lost. You mentioned Alberta Health Services. I want to ask a couple questions about the Edmonton Clinical Lab Hub.
Right.
I will tell you from the outset that I'm dead set against this project. I don't think that government should be operating clinical pathology services. We don't have the expertise. We like I say, there's numerous organizations that do a very, very good job of this. But that notwithstanding, if we're going to be the owners of a clinical pathology laboratory building, there are some very specific requirements of that building. And I guess I'm wanting to know from infrastructure. I know it's still early in the planning process, but are we going to bring in experts to ensure that the building and the structure has ISO certification? Are we going to build a building according to the most up-to-date HACCP principles? And are we going to build a building so that the biosecurity considerations, because if this building is going to be receiving clinical pathological samples from across Alberta, or at least across northern Alberta, it means you are handling biohazardous waste or biohazardous items on a daily basis. And there's some very specific handling requirements for that. I'm quite familiar with them, from working in a ClinPath lab in our own hospital.
Yeah.
What is this new building going to have? Is all of that going to be part of the design?
All of that is part of the design.
Okay. Like I say, I have a concern about what that might do to cost, and I'll give you an example of why I'm concerned about that. Last week there was an announcement of the Norwood facility and its expansion. Now it's going to go from 205 to 350 beds. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And the estimated cost is $364 million. Is that also correct?
If that's what
That was what is in the press release. Okay. So I guess my question is even if we were to say these 350 beds are brand new, which the beds are new, but in fact it's only an increase of 145 beds over what was there before, I'm concerned about the cost per bed. That's over $1 million per bed. And the question I get from folks that were involved, for example, in the ASLE program in 2014-15, and that build-out that built us some 2,251 beds for $120 million, is why does it cost so much per bed?
Well, certainly, we take our, do you have a? So, when you look at specialized support, so if you look at a project like this one, so there are multiple factors that really that you look at when you're looking at continuing care, as you well know. So the location, projects further from Edmonton and Calgary tend to be more costly. Particularly rural, which you're very familiar with. Project size, smaller buildings tend to have a higher cost per bed. The services offered, so this becomes an interesting piece, and that's sort of factored into the whole project. So when you're talking about specialized supports or programs, they would increase the construction cost. And then really, when you look at the construction and design practices, so for instance, for Alberta infrastructure, our design requirements are well above the minimum standard.
Right.
And then timelines would increase it as well. So when you look at a project such as this one, all those things come into play, and they would affect the overall price per bed.
Oh, yeah, and Minister, all of those factors you've identified are entirely relevant, and yes, they will have an impact. So a little bit related to that question, though, is with regards to standards for continuing care beds. Your health minister, and just as recently as yesterday, your associate minister of health was talking about the objective of building out the 2,000 additional continuing care beds. Now, we have a need for some additional continuing care beds in the town of Vermilion that's been identified,
right.
And we've been in discussion with the health ministry. But as infrastructure minister, could you or someone in your department give us some assistance as far as whether a new building has to be built to Class B standards or whether it's Class A standards? Because there seems to be a little bit of, I won't call it confusion, that's not the right word. There seems to be, within the messages that our community group is getting, some difference in opinion as to what the current requirement is for SL4 and SL4D beds. And I mean, obviously, that's going to have a huge impact on the cost of the facility.
Well, we certainly work with health on those issues,
Right.
and they really do dictate what it is, so we end up building. So we take our direction from them.
So I should ask health?
I would say that's probably a good idea.
We can do that.
Yep.
We can do that. So, Minister, question then about the unfunded list. I'm now turning to the fiscal plan, and page 67 on the fiscal plan. I always refer to the unfunded list, which I will also say is something that's good to see. It means it's on the radar. It's just not on the podium. And these are all worthwhile projects. And obviously, as you well know, there's always more wants than there is resources to handle it. So I guess a couple of questions. How many projects that were on last year's unfunded list became funded this year? How many projects that were on the unfunded list last year are now not to be seen, or otherwise they just dropped off the unfunded list? And how many are still on the unfunded list? They were unfunded last year, they remain unfunded this year.
Well, certainly when we look at the list as I can see, about 20 projects of the total 119 projects that were on the 2017 unfunded list are being funded in budget 2018.
Great.
So there's about 20 of those. I have a list of them if you're interested.
I do as well, actually, so that's
Oh, you
great.
do?
Yeah,
So
thank
you're
you.
good.
Yeah, well, those I know, the ones that advanced. I guess I'm curious to know how many dropped off and are now no longer either funded or unfunded, and how many remain on the list.
Well, we can find out that number.
Okay.
What happens is that priorities change in individual ministries, and they
True.
give us their update as we progress. So that's a direction I take from the individual ministries. So if you're looking at health facilities or I would take my cue from health on
Okay.
that.
No, and looking really at all of the different departments, and obviously a long list from transportation of various roads and bridges projects that for this year at least
Right.
just simply couldn't be proceeded with. I think one of the things, for example, I know that the leader of the Alberta Party praised the government, and I appreciate as well, is that providing the information in an Excel format this year is extremely helpful. It would be helpful just making notation for next year that when it comes to the unfunded project list, if just a summary of statistics of how many were on the list last year, how many are on the list this year, how many graduated, how many got set back, and how many are still there, and perhaps the ones that are still there, what year they were added to the unfunded list. So I just would find that to be very, very, very helpful. Minister, those are all of the questions I have. I want to thank you and your ministry officials for your efforts in this regard. We know that infrastructure is very important to Albertans, and we appreciate your efforts in terms of making sure there's excellence in the design and the construction of those infrastructure projects, and then also the maintenance of those critical resources and capital interests for Albertans.
Thank you.
Thank you. The